Hi, Adventures from the Shed Roadshow here at Card Universe in Boiling Springs. I am Joe. I'm here with Joey.
I'm Joey.
Hi, Joey.
How are you doing?
We are going to play this thing today, the Magic the Gathering Foundations Beginner Box. We cracked it open. You'll see that a little bit here, but we haven't actually looked inside yet. So we're going to do that, and you get to go on this journey with us. So let's see what we got.
Excited.
It is
see what's in here.
All right, so we get that box out of the way for now. Now I'm curious what the extra cards are in the little pack here, because I haven't really looked at those yet.
Looks like a lot of tokens to get you
Yeah.
started off with the jumpstart pack.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it, because that is a fairy token right on the front, right?
We have some fairy tokens, goblin tokens, cat tokens. Love those.
Nice.
And interesting for us is how to play the game.
Ooh,
So we're gonna show.
because we are going to play this as the box says to play it. And
We have that
that's
here on the camera.
Oh yeah, so the upside down. There we go.
Now this tells you how to
Yeah.
play your game.
It does. So we've got our beginning phase, our first main phase, our combat, our second main phase, and the ending phase. Now, to be fair, both Joey and I have played, so we are familiar with it, but we are going to try and play it by the book, or in this case, by the book, simply because there are books for the game, and then for each deck that comes with this beginner box.
So does it teach you how to play each deck?
I think so, because there are books for that. So I grabbed this. This is actually a cardboard play mat that comes with it, and there are two of them. So, Joey, why don't you go ahead and set yours up?
Absolutely. Just let you get a look at how they want to teach you how to play the game.
Yeah,
It unfolds like a board game.
it does. It's kind of neat. It's a hard board, just like a board game.
Gotcha.
And it fits right in front of us, almost the size of a regular play mat. I think it's a little less deep.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe slightly more wide. But either way, this is what we've got. We're going to be playing right on these mats.
Very cool.
In addition, there are some card dividers and some tokens, like the 1/1 counters, +1/+1 we have on there. So we will punch those out in a minute. This is the other part that I was mentioning. So we've got Cat's deck and Vampire's deck, which is, what's your preference?
Between the two, honestly, I have a lot of experience playing against the Vampires deck.
Oh.
So, got to go with the Cats.
Right. And then this was the other one I mentioned. So we want to take a look at that.
Yeah.
That's the rules reference guide. So I'll be playing the Vampires, and we've got a quick start guide here. So kind of neat. It actually tells you a little bit about it, what's in the deck, as well as right at the beginning, don't shuffle, because they're in a specific order, apparently. Nice. Okay. So we will look at that in a minute.
So,
And then there's just the bottom of the box, and then we get the two decks. I'll grab that. Oh, that's Cats. That would be you.
you're a vampire.
Apparently, I'm just undead. I don't get to be vampires.
You might get
But
two
we'll see.
pairs.
Yeah, it could be. And then also in those two spots there are the life counters, the spin down dice that we get with the set. And I guess we can just pick which color we want.
Well, you definitely get the purple one.
Well,
for the
then I got to get the
vampire.
purple for the vampires. All right.
It looks like they want me to have this golden yellow
Yep.
one for the cat.
Because cats are golden.
Now, looking in the rules reference guide, they teach you
Yeah.
everything that you need to know starting from the very beginning. So
Nice.
this is what a magic card looks like.
So it might not be completely readable, but
No
people
problem.
get the idea
Yeah.
of what we see. And yeah, we'll keep kind of holding it up so we can say what page we're on. We'll describe some of what we're doing there too.
It goes as far as to explain to you what creatures are, what their power and toughness is.
Nice.
And then it even goes into combat and explains to you how to attack and defend, which is very helpful.
We'll need all that. And I think that's it for the box. There's this nice little diagram here of what each color kind of means, what they do. But we're going to set that aside for now. And I also think we will not be using these card dividers or anything, but these tokens definitely. So I'm gonna. Oh, these are nice, easy ones to punch out. No hanging chads in here.
Oh, are they all +1/+1?
They are. So apparently that's what we're going to use. Let's go ahead and set that aside too, please. All right. I've been itching enough. I gotta open it.
Let's see what we have here. It says not to shuffle them.
Yep. And this is supposed to be a bunch of different stuff from what I know. Yeah. Thank you, sir. So first off, undead. So that one is definitely going to be not where we start because that is a placeholder card, essentially. Kind of like the one that says cats.
Yes.
I already lost my number. All right. So we're not gonna.
Interesting. I don't have one like that.
So in this case, though, where does the deck start? Is my question.
Oh,
You know what?
You know what?
You've got it. These are the extra cards. I can set that aside for now.
I see. This is a separate pirate deck.
Nice. So then where is there a vampire in there?
No, these are all cats.
All right. So
I
now
think
I've got
yours
to
is
look.
separated out.
Let's see. Does the reference have it in there?
You know what? I think I see the vampire right here.
All right. Cool.
Here you go.
All right. So there's vampires.
So
there's
big.
cats. So vampires. All right. So then this must stop at some point. All right. So vampires is that much. There's healing and pirates, and so this is the jumpstart things that are included. This one may say it.
Yeah.
Rules and may or may not. Let's take a quick look here. Nope. So at this point, now that I've said to put it aside, if you wouldn't mind, grab that box again, because I think it does mention everything that's included in it.
The box itself, you mean?
Yeah, I think it might be it's either on the front or the back of the box. It actually says it. Oh yeah, top there. So it says, what does that say there?
2 instant play decks.
So that would be vampires and cats. Yep. Okay.
2 learn to play guides.
We got those. Yep.
And then 8 jumpstart decks.
That's what we got. So those are themed.
Count 8s?
Yeah, well, they will be separated by these. So this is the undead, and there's going to be a certain amount there. And then at the end of that is goblins. So they'll be separated like that. There should be 20 cards because jumpstart is 20 cards.
Well, there's probably separated out here again.
Yeah, and then I have Inferno.
Very cool. So pirates separates out into wizards as well.
And elves. Or as I stupidly say regularly, Elvis.
The Elvis deck.
Elvis. Hey, look, there's Elvis. Primal. Primal is a green.
Okay.
All right. So that should be the 8, which means that's the cats. Then we have our other 8. Cool.
So altogether we have healing, pirates, primal, wizards, inferno, elves, undead, and goblins.
Outstanding. So I think that is, once we learn the basics, then we can actually do something else. We create a jumpstart deck.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Which by jumpstart is 2 packs shuffled together, play them. Cool. So now that we've kind of figured that out, we have our decks that do specifically say do not shuffle.
It's taking everything in my power not to.
Not to, yeah. So we're just going to take these, and I think we can just take these and put them face down. Let's go ahead and put the rules reference to the side, but let's see what our book tells us to do first.
Sure.
Since that's what we're going to do. So I'm assuming they're going to be the same. And I'll just go ahead and read some of the beginning. It tells you what the training deck is, what's in it. And then in addition to that, it says, don't shuffle your deck before the training game. To prepare to play, take the following steps. Lay the play mat in front of you. We got that. Place your deck face down on the library.
Got it.
I'm actually going to take the vampire card out because it looks cool.
Yep.
But I don't think we actually need to for this. Place a life counter on life total with the 10 showing. So this was a quick game. Right. And then to start the game. All right. So we've got here to start the game, we draw 7 cards. I'm going to do that. And it should be some very specific cards, I would presume. Uh-oh. Mine is already off by 1.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Now, do you think that was our error?
I think, you know what? I think it's like the reverse.
Mine is all wrong.
So I think it's probably the reverse. Yeah, maybe. All right. No, mine doesn't match up.
Mine is reversed. Mine is correct.
I'm a wizards. So I've got, mine says it should be 4 swamps, vampire interloper, vampire swamp. All right, so that is the first 7 cards. So it's just, it's reversed.
Hang on, it says in the rulebook here.
Yeah.
If your hand looks different, your deck may not have been in the right order to start. If that happened, let's start over. Use the deck list in the previous page to set your deck in the right order, then come here.
So they've seen this before.
So before you know how to play.
I think what will get us there is if we just deal them reversed.
Yeah.
Just 20 cards. Now I've just reversed their order. That should do it. Now I'm going to draw those 7, and it says I should have 4 swamps, the vampire interloper, the vampire spawn, and the moment of craving. And indeed, I actually have those cards. So that's a good start.
Interesting. So let me flip mine over and see if I got the same effects.
They aren't in the exact order, but I think that's fine. They're the right cards.
Yep. Mine is correct now. All 7 cards.
Right. So then what we have is we have our hand. And then it talks about tapping and untapping cards. So first it's the anatomy of a magic card, which I guess is relevant. If we just set one of our cards over there.
Absolutely.
And then we can talk about it a little bit.
I'll put down this one here, my Savannah Lions. The book makes a point of saying that you're playing with felines, including the ferocious Savannah Lions.
Savannah Lions. So what it tells us is right across the top is the name of the card, their card name, and then on the top right is the mana cost. Then the type line is the one right in the center. See if I can point at it right there. So that's in our case, it's a creature, it's a cat. Then the expansion symbol on the opposite side of that is what expansion is from. I'm guessing this star is related specifically to the beginning box and foundations. Yeah.
So I believe everything in here is from foundations.
I would hope so. It's got a big word, foundations. Anyway, and then we've also got the text box at the bottom there. And in our case, it just has some of the narrative or flavor text for our creature. And then on the bottom right, when it's a creature, you'll see power and toughness. In this case, the Savannah Lions is a 2 power and 1 toughness. So that lets us know about that. And then the other thing that it does talk about on the next page is tapping and untapping, which we could actually do a little demo of that.
Absolutely.
So that card right now is not tapped. In order to tap it, we turn it, is that 90 degrees?
Yeah.
Yeah. Turn it 90 degrees in either direction. Now, technically, there's usually the arrow that points to the right. But go ahead and tap the card just to show what it would look like.
If we were to attack with the Savannah Lions, we'll tap.
It's like that. So pretty much turning the card sideways. Also, I think one thing that happens regularly is as your board kind of fills up in front of you, sometimes you can't turn them all the way, and some people do like, a 45-degree turn or so.
Yeah.
As long as it's clear enough, I think that's a good start.
Absolutely.
All right. So now we've got that anatomy of a card. We've got the tapping and untapping, and this brings us essentially to the end of page 3, beginning of page 4. It's called Taking Turns.
It says that you take the first turn.
Does it say that I take the first turn?
On page 3, it tells me you take the second turn of the game.
Vampires go first. All right. So beginning phase, and we have that phases of your turn are on your turn. This is going to talk us through it, so we'll just work right from there. So our beginning phase, I have no cards to untap, and I don't draw a card this turn because I'm first. One of the things in the game, in any Magic game, I think is just a standard rule. If you go first, you don't draw.
Yeah.
Everybody else at the table will draw on their first turn, but the person who goes first does not draw. So I do not draw. I get to play a land, find a swamp in your hand and play it untapped on your side of the battlefield. So I've got a swamp right here, and I play that one right there on the spot marked lands on the sheet, or on the playmat. And then it says pass the turn, because I don't have any spells I can play. So I tell my opponent it is now their turn. It is now their turn.
Now, Joe.
Yes.
If you had more than one swamp in your hand, what's to stop you from playing more than one swamp?
Well, I don't know, because it doesn't say it yet. No, it does say. It says you may play 1 land from your hand on each of your turns. And if you can, you should.
Exactly.
But it's 1.
Yeah.
Now, there are, just like every other trading card game out there, there are specific rules that allow you to break the standard rules. So standard rule is 1 land per turn. However, you may have a card out on the board or something that says you can play an additional land. If you do, you play it.
Yeah. And most of those cards are green.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anything that gives you a little extra mana is almost always great. Hey, let's get cats
Good
over
idea.
here.
All right.
Make it look a little pretty. Yeah, so then I pass my turn. So that's the end phase.
Now, beginning phase is my turn, and it says draw a card.
Okay, hold on just a second. All right, go ahead.
So I've drawn a plains,
Cool.
and it says to play a land. Find a plains and play it untapped. Play a plains.
Then what do you get to do?
It says to cast a spell.
You
So
cast a spell.
the card that we showed you a little bit ago, Savannah Lions, costs 1 white mana, and it says to go ahead and turn my plains sideways, to tap it, to play the Savannah Lions. So
Nice.
Savannah Lions is 1 white mana. It is a 2 power, 1 toughness creature. And because I've summoned it this turn, it has what is called summoning sickness, which means that even though I played it, I can't attack with it yet.
And that,
And the book
just so you
reminds
saw too, that's put into the spot on the playmat called creatures. So we'll have a spot for creatures and a spot for lands.
And it says in the book here, rules reminder, creatures can't attack on the same turn they enter the battlefield. One special ability, haste, allows creatures to break that rule.
Cool.
But
Now there is a common term for that too called summoning sickness.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's actually referenced in the book, but that's what a lot of people understand as the term to go along with when you first summon a creature. It is sick, essentially. It can't be used the first turn it comes into play.
correct. You can't attack or tap it
Yeah.
with its own ability. But that's all the book wants me to do. So I will pass the turn to you, Joe.
Oh, cool. So then I get to go to my second turn, according to the book. Because it's my second turn, I get to draw a card this turn. So I'm going to draw a card. And I'm just going to say what I'm drawing.
I was about to say, what'd
all
you get,
beginner.
Joe?
I got a swamp. I already had 3. So that makes 4 swamps now. And let's see. The next thing I'm going to do is play a land. It tells me to play another swamp, which I will gladly do. And then I can cast a spell. So here's where we get to my first spell cast. It costs 2. No, hold on a second. Which one does it tell me to cast? Yeah. So Vampire Interloper. I'm picking the wrong one in my hand. I have another one that costs 2. So let's put Vampire Interloper on here and let's take a look. So this card costs 1 black and 1 colorless to cast, and colorless means any color, essentially. So since I have just black in front of me, I can use 2 black, and one of them can be substituted as that colorless. And this creature has flying, and it can't block. And that's something I'm sure is about to come up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put it here. But a flying creature means it's in the air, and things that are on the ground can't block it unless they can reach it, which is an ability called reach.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
If you were to attack with a flying creature, my lions can't get to it.
Yeah.
Can't block.
So I'm going to put my Vampire Interloper out there. And let's see what else we got. Creatures can't attack on the same turn they come into the battlefield. Unless it has haste, because this one mentions haste. Haste does allow it to attack the turn it comes in. And then I move to that's my main phase, and then I move to my ending phase, and at this point, I pass the turn. And oh, you know what? I really should tap these lands that were required to get that done. Cool.
So now as a player, I know from this information that even if Joe has good cards in his hand to react to what I do, he's what we call tapped out.
Yeah.
Meaning that he has no resources left to cast those spells.
Yep. And let's see. And it does tell me that I now have matched my opponent with a creature of my own, but I can't attack with a creature on the turn it came out. So it kind of tells me too, and this is part of what the book is showing us. It tells us what our hand should look like at the end of the turn. Thankfully, mine looks right, so I'm doing it good so far. And pass the turn on to Joey.
Sure. So this is something that I had a problem with beginning how to play Magic is learning the phase order. This book does a good job of showing you in order. Beginning phase, before you draw a card, you untap your land. I don't know if that'll come into play with this beginner box, but it's good to know ahead of time. You untap your land and all of your creatures, and then you draw from the top of your deck. Now, it says to play a land, which thankfully I will do. 2 mana is a lot in white.
Yeah.
And it says to cast Leonin Skyhunter from my hand by tapping 2. So I will do that now. I will tap 2 white, and I'll play Leonin Skyhunter. It is another creature with flying, so now we both have a flying creature.
Ooh,
He is a 2/2 cat knight.
nice. Okay.
I'm going to put him right beside my Savannah Lions. Now, he has summoning sickness, so I cannot attack with him, but that'll do me a favor later because that means that I can leave him open to block anything that Joe might come swinging out with
Yeah.
later.
Which is likely to happen.
I would hope so. Now, it says to declare attackers, I'm entering my combat phase,
Mhm.
and it's important when you play Magic to declare all of your attackers at one time.
Yeah.
So that way your opponent can block and play his spells in response with full knowledge of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I will attack with my one Savannah Lions. I will tap it to signify that I'm attacking.
Mhm.
And that gives Joe the opportunity to, it says in the book, declare blockers.
And that moves to me in my book. It says under declare attackers, my opponent is tapping Savannah Lions, but then to declare blockers, unfortunately, I can't. It says my vampire interloper can't block, which we saw when we looked at that card.
Mhm.
So I need to tell you, I am not declaring any blockers because I can't. Apparently.
And now you're passing the priority back to me to say, well, since he's unblocked, he will be dealing 2 damage to
Ow.
your life total.
So then I take my life counter and I move it from 10 to 8. It goes down by 2.
Now, after combat, there's one additional main phase, but I don't have anything to do right now. The book doesn't even refer to it, so I will end my turn.
That's one thing I did notice on this. It only shows the turns where you're going to do something, or the parts of the turn, the phases.
Right. I don't know if we
So that
skipped it in
could
the
be
beginning,
useful.
but it didn't go over the actual order of all of the phases.
Yeah, I think I feel like it's just telling us exactly what we need to know to do our current action and then move to the next action.
That's for the best.
So it's kind of nice, yeah, without giving too much information right off the bat. So now we go to my third turn. We do beginning phase just like Joey had on his. So the first thing is we untap. And then the next thing I'm doing on my beginning phase by the book is draw a card. And it tells me you've drawn a swamp. Let's see. Yes,
There it is.
I've drawn a swamp.
Good to know when a plan comes together.
Yeah. And then as part of my first main phase, we will play a land, playing my third swamp, just like I did before. A little bubble here on the sheet that talks about the turns having 2 main phases, one before combat and one after.
There it is.
You can play land and cast spells in either. So that's useful. Let's see. All right, so it's actually telling me to wait for my second main phase to cast another creature. So that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
We move on to the combat phase. Knowing when to attack and when to stay back for defense is important. Vampire Interloper makes this decision easy. It can't block, so we might as well attack with it. Maybe your opponent will block, in which case Vampire Interloper is strong enough to eliminate Leon and Skyhunter. We'll see that shortly, I guess. So I'm going to declare attackers. Again, I declare all my attackers, all my 1 attackers at once. And this is one thing I mentioned at the beginning. Some people tap to the right or to the left.
Yeah.
My hand goes this way, so I usually flip the cards to the left. And I don't think you'll ever find anyone who's going to complain about that. And if so, don't play with that.
Yeah, seriously.
So I'm declaring my attacker. That's Vampire Interloper. And I tell my opponent, it's attacking you, man.
All right. Now, priority passes to me to choose who to block with.
Yeah.
It's an easy choice. I only have one that can block it. And indeed, it even says to tell Joe that Leon and Skyhunter is blocking it.
Nice.
So I will block with Leon and Skyhunter.
So then we have indicated our attackers and blockers. Now we deal the combat damage. Now this time, because there's a creature in the way, the damage doesn't go right to the other player.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at this, and it says deal combat damage. They deal at the same time. Each have power of 2, so they each deal 2 damage to the other.
And that's at the same time.
Yep. And that's enough damage to destroy each creature. So I put Vampire Interloper into my graveyard.
And I put Leon and Skyhunter into mine.
And then just a reminder here from the book, creature's power is how much damage it deals in combat, and its toughness is how much damage it takes in a single turn to destroy it.
Right. Now, as a player, to me, this was a good trade because now I have 1 creature on the battlefield and Joe has none. So on my next turn, I can attack and have nobody to block it. I think.
Yeah.
I think.
So now we move on to what's called the second main phase. In my first main phase, I played a land. My second main phase, I cannot play another land. However, I can cast a spell, and I will. I am going to use black and 2 colorless, so all 3 of my swamps will be tapped, and we will cast Vampire Spawn.
Yeah.
So when this creature enters, each opponent loses 2 life, and I gain 2 life. So this is nice. So when I do that, I paid the 3 swamps for it, and I'll grab that card back. He's going to come into play. I tapped the 3 swamps. I placed Vampire Spawn on my side of the battlefield, again in the creature spot of my playmat. And it has a special ability that triggers. I gain 2 life, so I'm going to bring my life back to 10, and then my opponent loses 2 life.
And I drop down to 8.
Yeah.
And that happens simultaneously as it enters the battlefield.
So in this case now, there's a little rules reminder that says there's no limit to how much life you can have. And this is actually very important. When you play a bigger game, for example, a standard commander game starts with 40 life. I've seen people in like well over 100, even 200 life.
Absolutely.
Like, the life can just keep going up.
It gets ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, the flip side of that is when you're playing a game like that and somebody else all of a sudden has, 20 Pegasuses that are going to fly at you, that life total comes down pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pegasuses?
Pegasi.
Pegasine.
No, Commander life is easy come, easy go.
Oh, yeah. So then that's my, the end of that second main phase. I'll read this a little bit from the book. It says, attacking and blocking aren't the only ways your creatures can benefit you. Vampire Spawn has already done us a great service by healing us while whittling away at our opponent's life total. It says, what a wonderful minion. Good boy, Vampire Spawn. Good boy. Then we move to my ending phase, at which I will pass the turn. I'm going to do.
Now, before I begin my turn, something I want to bring attention to on this Vampire Spawn is a change to the rules text. Did you notice that?
Probably not.
On the card, it says when this creature enters, instead of enters the battlefield.
Huh.
Starting with Foundations, they changed some of the text on the cards to make it so that there's less word soup on the card.
Yeah.
Everybody can assume that when it says enters, they mean the battlefield.
Okay.
Kind of like a few years ago, they changed it from leaves the battlefield and enters the graveyard to dies.
Yeah, dies.
You can know what
you
know
dies.
what dies is. Here, that's yours.
Oh, yeah, I'll keep that one for now. You got some of your own there. All right, so I have now passed the turn over to Joey to begin his third turn.
My book says that Vampire Spawn is troubling. While we want to play aggressively, we must also play wisely. Let's focus on casting more creatures until we have the advantage. So I will begin my untap and untap my plains and my Savannah Lions. He is on board again. I
was just thinking an interesting part to this. Neither of us has looked at this before we started playing. People who are watching this might already know who wins.
Yeah,
we don't. It's kind of funny.
Well, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
Play a land, play my 3rd plains, and I will. Cast a spell, Prideful Parents. The cost to cast the spell is 3. So I will tap 3 mana. And it says here on the card, it can be 2 mana of any color and 1 white. He is Prideful Parents. He is a 2/2 cat with vigilance, meaning that attacking doesn't cause him to tap. And when he enters, create a 1/1 white cat creature token.
Nice.
So I will put him onto the battlefield.
And then you found the tokens.
I do have a token for a 1/1 cat.
So how does the book narrate you through that? Just curious.
It says, place Prideful Parent untapped on your side of the battlefield. Prideful Parent has an ability that triggers when it enters. Place a cat token, a 1/1 creature, untapped on my side of the battlefield.
Nice.
And then it goes into some flavor.
Look at that. Oh, look at the cute kitty with
the
butterfly.
Precious. A creature token is like a bonus creature that's created by some spells and abilities. A creature token is just like any other creature. It can attack, just not the first turn it entered. It can also block. Tokens can't stay in the graveyard or your hand, and that's important. So if Joe were to cast a spell that returns my token to my hand or my deck, it ceases to exist.
Just goes away.
It's gone.
Now, one thing that I can't remember, does it still consider having touched the graveyard if it gets destroyed?
I don't think so.
Okay. I probably won't come up in this.
No, but
just as the way you had phrased that made me remember to ask it.
yeah, I don't think it triggers graveyards. Now we enter combat phase where it says, okay, interesting. I was curious. So Vampire Spawn has a 3 toughness, which is more than my Savannah Lions.
Oh, yeah.
So if I were to attack with my Savannah Lions, Joe would have no problem destroying it.
Yeah, and that's why I think the book tells you that this Vampire Spawn is a pesky creature for me to have out there.
It says that we must skip attacking.
Yeah.
So I have a much better board state than I entered with this turn. So I'm happy. So I will pass my turn to you.
Oh my, I get to start my 4th turn. And I am starting my 4th turn now. So first thing I got to do is untap my cards. I've got 3 lands tapped. We will untap those. And then I draw a card. And I got the Highborn Vampire. And this tells me Highborn Vampire will be the most powerful creature on the battlefield. Hey.
Uh-oh. That's not good for me.
It says, being outnumbered isn't so bad when you're outnumbered by the weak.
That's a very vampire thing.
Yeah, it is. So now I move on to my main phase. I will play another swamp. So I play my 4th swamp, and then I'm going to cast the spell, Highborn Vampire, and we'll take a look at what that guy does.
That was not supposed to come out like that.
It is a 4 casting cost, so 1 black and 3 colorless, and it doesn't have any special abilities, but it does have a 4 power and a 3 toughness. So that's substantial compared to the other things that are out here. So I am going to tap all the mana required for that. I will say these boards are a little slippery, which I guess can be expected.
And the cards are new, so they're going to be slipping and sliding.
And plus, typically players will use sleeves, and that makes it even more slippery.
Yeah.
So it's interesting so far, though. I really like that it's a nice hard playmat to work with.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice thing. So now I've cast the Highborn Vampire. And then I move on to my combat phase. Now here it says recommends not attacking this turn. And the book goes on to explain why. Vampire Spawn is larger than any one of your opponent's creatures, but blockers have an advantage. They can send more than one of their creatures to block. So I could attack with the one which is individually bigger than any of what Joey has on the field. However, they can block as a group. And that would be bad for the Vampire Spawn.
Now that's something that I had a really hard time grasping early on, was how many people can attack and how many people can block each creature.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good that it covers it in the book, so that way people will have more knowledge than I had starting out.
Yeah. And essentially it says too, it could deal damage however I want, but at best I could destroy only one of those other creatures. And it says trading Vampire Spawn for one of your opponent's weaker creatures, not interested. So that's where we leave that. Then I go to my end phase, and I pass the turn back to Joey.
All right. So my beginning phase will begin where I untap all 3 of my lands. I would untap my creatures, but they're all good to go. So I'll draw my card. And it's a Plains. Okay, so it says your deck excels at teamwork, and no card embodies that more than Beladar Savior, our play for this turn. It strengthens 2 of your creatures and makes them bigger problems for your opponent. So I will play a Plains, bring me up to 4, and I will tap all of my land, in order to play Felidar Savior. He is a 4 cost, 3 generic, 1 white. He is a 2/3 with lifelink. And when this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures I control.
And one of the nice things with Magic cards, in specific for this one, you can see when there's a keyword, most of the time, right after the keyword in parentheses is a summary of what that keyword means.
Yeah.
So in this case, it says lifelink, damage dealt by this creature also causes you to gain that much life.
And that's damage dealt to a player or another creature.
Yep, pretty much any damage.
Yep.
So it's really cool.
So I will add that to my collection of kitties.
The Cat Fancy collection.
Nice.
Nice.
And it specifies here to put the +1/+1 counters graciously provided to us from Wizards.
Yeah.
On Prideful Parents and on Savannah Lions. So Savannah Lions power and toughness goes up by 1 each to make it a 3 power, 2 toughness. Prideful Parent is now a 3/3.
Nice. So now, even though I did have the larger creatures when we started this turn, I don't anymore. I mean, I still have the Highborn Vampire is the largest, but now it's starting to even out.
Things are a little bit different now. It says that a +1/+1 counter will stay on the creature until the creature leaves the battlefield or something else removes the counter. Combat phase, and this is important. Anticipating what your opponent might do while you're considering attacking is an important step towards success. My cat token is too small to send into combat, but Prideful Parent matches up well with the defenses I see across from me. Let's be aggressive, is what it says. Now, I will enter combat and declare my attackers. Prideful Parent is attacking on its own, and it has an ability called Vigilance, which means that choosing to attack with it won't tap it. So this is a 3/3 creature.
So one of the things that I find interesting now, reading more of these thought bubbles within the book,
Yeah.
the one for this turn as you're getting ready to declare your attackers, it tells me your opponent filling the battlefield with insignificant threats was amusing for a while, but now they're getting bigger.
Yeah, see, and black is really good at matching power, and I think black kind of spiraled out of control as we gain more land to get.
Yeah, that's true.
So will you be blocking?
So you have declared Prideful Parent attacking, and it tells me that I do not declare blockers. So the reason it says that, it says, not ready to lose any of our creatures just yet. Taking some damage is fine, especially with our deck, we'll get that life back.
Yeah.
So this deck anticipates, pretty much like the Vampire Spawn, that we're going to get some life back as we're playing.
And to see how that would look, if I were to attack with Prideful Parent, that would be 3 power coming at Joe. If he were to block with either creature, that creature would die.
Yeah, because they both have 3 toughness.
Right.
That's the amount of damage they would take before they get destroyed and sent to the graveyard.
And even though Prideful Parent would also die, that would be probably an unfavorable trade on your part.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
For sure.
you will be not blocking.
So in this case, I am not declaring any blockers, and the combat damage happens. Prideful Parent has power of 3 and wasn't blocked. It deals 3 damage to me, reducing my life total to 7.
Now we're a little bit more tied.
Yeah.
That is all that I will do. It tells me not to do anything in my second main phase, so then I will pass the turn to Joe.
And I move on to my 5th turn. And it starts with, again, this little bubble from the character. Outnumbered again, but if our opponent thinks we're going to be intimidated, they'll need to think again. All right, I start by untapping my cards. In this case, just lands tapped. So just be untapping my lands and drawing a card. When I get that one. Untamed Hunger. It's got some pretty purple sparkle around the edge there. I like that. Now I'm going to move to my main phase. I'm going to play my 5th swamp. Most players at some point start to stack their lands because they use up a lot of space.
Yeah.
And I think in general, as long as you're stacking them so your opponent can see them clearly, it's usually not a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that because I know how much space we have here, and I'm still holding another swamp, so I still need all that space. So now it tells me, after I play my 5th swamp, that I'm going to cast the spell that I just drew, which is called Untamed Hunger. Let's take a look at that spell and see what it does for us. So it's an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. What that means essentially is it's going to be attached to a creature. And the enchanted creature gets +2/+1 and has menace. And right there in parentheses, you can see it says it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, which means they have to gang up to block it automatically. Typically, the defender can choose to do that, but in this case, they have to.
Right.
Let's see. I guess I'll disappear. All right, let me cast that card, and let's see what the book tells me to do. The cost to the cost to cast this spell is 2 colorless and 1 black. So I will tap that amount of swamps, 3 swamps. And I place it near Highborn Vampire, make it clear to everyone that Highborn Vampire is being enchanted by Untamed Hunger. Now, what I like to do is I will put it kind of underneath so you can still read the enchantment.
Right.
Because it's the stuff in there that matters
Yeah.
more so than the name of the card.
I don't need to know
Yeah.
what it's called, but I can see from here +2/+1.
So in that case, it says put it near that card and making it clear. And as a rule reminder, it says auras enter attached to whatever is described in their enchant ability. In this case, it was enchant creature. So it's attached to a creature. If you didn't control any creatures, you wouldn't be able to cast this one because it's specific to a creature.
Mhm.
And then enchantments aren't auras don't attach to anything. They, I don't know what they used to be called, like global enchantments or something, but
Yeah.
it's essentially something that affects everything out there according to its text. Now, it also tells me I don't have enough mana available to cast this other spell I'm holding. And I'm sorry, I do have, but I'm not going to do it yet. And the book's going to explain to me a little more as I go to page number 22.
Almost done.
Yeah, as we go to the combat phase, I'm going to be tapping Highborn Vampire and tell my opponent it's attacking you.
Now, why wouldn't you attack with Vampire Spawn as well?
And you know, that's a good point. And I'm curious if the book says anything, and it doesn't.
It
but
might
let's
just
see.
be like assuming that
Mhm.
I would still just be able to block and kill it.
It's very possible, yeah. But that one is not actually spelled out as to why it would only choose the Highborn Vampire,
Yeah.
but that's what we're doing. So we've got that, and now it goes on to declaring the blockers.
Now it's telling me, gosh, it's a dangerous threat. 6 damage
Yeah.
is a lot, but it's telling me to leave nobody to block and to take all 6 damage to drop me down to 2.
Now, I think maybe one reason is because this creature now with the enchantment is now a 6 power, 4 toughness, and it's menace. So you have to block with 2 or more.
Yeah.
And if you do, because of the toughness of your creatures, they're probably all going to get killed.
Yeah.
So probably not a good even swap. And the book kind of tells it that they would need 2 untapped creatures to block the Highborn Vampire. So now in this case, as you mentioned, your book says not to block. My book says it's going to deal 6 damage to their opponent, reducing
sure
their
did.
life to 2. And that's going to move to my end phase, and I will pass the turn over. And another thing, I'll say this again. I think I said it in maybe turn 2 or so, but the book actually has this really neat end of your turn. It's a recap of your turn at the end of each turn, and this one kind of tells me what my board should look like, and it does. My battlefield has the right amount of swamps tapped. The Highborn Vampire is tapped. Now, technically, in the picture, they don't have the enchantment tapped, but the way I do it, I tap it along with it. You don't have to. And it also tells you what your library and graveyard should look like. They are accurate, and what should be in your hand. So I really like this recap.
Yeah.
It tells you if you did it right.
Right.
Oh, also, my life total should be 7, which it is.
I don't do very well by being told like to do something without knowing why.
Yeah.
And having the recap kind of packages it back to you and tells you
I like
why
that.
it happened.
I really like that a lot. And I'll tell you, the pictures and the graphics they have in here are easy to read.
Yeah.
Everything about it, the quality of this book of how to play your deck, I think is really good.
I'm sure you've opened up pre-built 60 card decks that have folded up paper.
It's so
it doesn't
different.
do
No,
it doesn't do
no.
the job as well as this.
It's more of a poster than a guide.
Yeah.
So now I pass it over to Joey for his 5th turn.
So I will begin and untap all of my land. I will draw my card, and it is what it told me it would be, which is good.
So that reversing of the deck, that worked very well.
It made a big difference.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't tell us to do that.
Yeah.
That would be
Agreed.
Probably one of the only complaints I would have so far.
Yeah. Although, as you pointed out, the book does recognize that it could be wrong, and it was. And they do tell you to fix it. And they give you right in the first page, it's the full list of the order the cards should be in. So if you follow what the book says, it does work.
And it's only 20 cards, so like it's not very hard.
Yeah.
I'll play my plans so that we're matched on land 5 and 5. And I will tap 5 to cast a sorcery, which I think is our first sorcery of the game.
That's a good point, because I had an enchantment, and we both had creatures, but yeah, this would be the first sorcery.
It says there's a lot more to magic than casting creatures and attacking. A sorcery, which is I'm going to be casting Angelic Edict. And here on the card types, it is a sorcery.
Ooh,
I know.
I'm looking at it and I don't like it. So I can see it's 1 white and 4 colorless, so the 5 mana, like you mentioned.
And
it is a sorcery,
which means it has a one-time effect.
And looking at that line, like we described at the beginning, it does say sorcery there.
So after I cast it, it goes to the graveyard. It is a one and done effect.
right,
So Angelic Edict says to exile target creature or enchantment. There's a lot of keywords there.
yeah.
Exiling is putting it into a zone other than the graveyard, which
Mhm.
we've done before.
And we can actually see on the playmat here, we have an exile spot on both of the playmats.
Exiling is kind of putting it in a permanent timeout.
Yeah.
Not a lot of things can interact with cards that have been exiled.
Yep.
So the book is telling me to send Angelic Edict to the graveyard and to exile the Highborn Vampire because we don't want to deal with it anymore.
Now, the Highborn Vampire will go into exile, but the enchantment, now let me see what the book tells me to do, by the way, on my side. So the Highborn Vampire gets exiled. As the creature, if the creature leaves the battlefield, any auras attached to it go to the graveyard. So this great enchantment that I had on my guy here, my Highborn Vampire, will go to my graveyard. So now I have 2 cards in the graveyard.
You do not get to reattach
And I
it.
have 1. Yeah, it kind of goes away.
Yeah.
There is a different kind of card that can be attached to a creature, like called equipment. That may not go away, but I don't see any here yet. Maybe we'll see something later. So yeah, so Untamed Hunger went into my graveyard. And then I get, again, my little character's telling me, losing our mightiest creature is an unfortunate development.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now I'll begin my combat phase, and it says that attacking with multiple creatures can be daunting for an opponent. They have a lot to consider.
Yeah.
And our creatures are pretty big. Let's see how they handle it. So I will declare my attackers all at one time. I will declare that Savannah Lions, which I will tap, Prideful Parent, which has Vigilance, so no tapping, and Felidar Savior are all attacking. So as a courtesy, I'll tell to Joe, altogether that's 2, 5, 8 damage total.
That's crazy. Now, again, my character is saying, I enjoy death as much as anyone, but making a block where neither creature dies can be the best play sometimes. Block creatures don't deal damage to you, so to keep your life total healthy, use your high toughness creatures to get in the way. So in this case, what it's telling me for declaring my blockers will be block Felidar Savior with Vampire Spawn.
Okay.
So I will be declaring that Vampire Spawn will block Felidar Savior. Now, as the board gets filled up, this is something really important to keep track of.
Yeah.
And sometimes folks will put creatures kind of towards each other as a reminder of that one's blocking that one.
It is absolutely okay to change your board as the game evolves to accommodate for that. It's fine to move your piece.
And it's also useful doing it this way because not only can you remember what's what, but then you can just move things back after. Right? It doesn't really matter, as Joey said, you can move it around. But another thing to remember too is a tapped creature cannot block. This creature is not tapped, but you also don't have to tap to block or anything. You just say, this dude's blocking that dude. Yep. And it's clear.
So now that that has happened, we deal damage.
But as part of declaring blockers, I'm also going to cast a spell according to my book. So I'm going to cast Moment of Craving. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the Trixie Moment of Craving. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, and you gain 2 life.
Who are you targeting?
So I am going to start with follow the book.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. But I'm going to cast it. I'm going to pay the 2 mana to do so. And again, in this case, my 2 mana is the last 2 I had, the 2 swamps. And then I'm going to target Savannah Lions. Savannah Lions gets -2/-2, making it a 1/0 creature. I also gain 2 life, bringing your life total to 9. Now, one of the things that's really useful, in my opinion, as you get started playing is make sure, let me press all the buttons I want to press here. As you're reading the cards and you're first learning, just go in order on what's in the card. It just makes it easier. Now, granted, I could just go here and gain 2 life and then we could figure out the other thing, but it's a lot easier to remember where you are if you just follow the order. So in this case, we're making Savannah Lions a 1/0 creature by giving it the -2/-2, which would put it to the graveyard. And then I also gain 2 life, so I will go from 7 to 9.
Giving my creature -2/-2 is equivalent to dealing 2 damage to it.
Mhm.
And bringing
Yeah.
your creature's toughness down to 0 is what will destroy it.
Mhm.
0 power is okay. You can live with no power, but you can't
Not
live with
toughness.
0 toughness.
Yeah.
So Savannah
Bad.
Lions will go to the graveyard.
So now my card, which was, oh, by the way, the other thing we mentioned, the other was a sorcery. This is an instant.
Yep.
An instant is something that can be cast at any time you could cast a spell.
That's why he was able to cast it on my turn,
Exactly.
even though, it's an instant, meaning that you can do it on my turn in response to something that I'm doing.
So that, however, because it's an instant, it goes to my graveyard once it's cast. So Moment of Craving goes to my graveyard. Savannah Lions goes to Joey's graveyard, both of which are now no longer in play.
You have blocked my creature, so no damage goes through. I deal 2 damage.
Well, now I'm going to the deal combat. We both have this step. Now each of us has different things on them.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and read the deal combat damage from yours?
There are multiple attacking creatures, so let's break this down. Prideful Parent has power 3 and wasn't blocked.
Yeah.
So it deals 3 damage to you, reducing your life total from 9 to 6.
Now I'm going to do that now, but remember, all damage is dealt at the same time.
Right.
So technically, all of the damage will go at once, but it's easy as we're playing this to kind of follow the book. So it says to go to 6, and then we'll go on to the next one.
Now, Felidar Savior was blocked by Vampire Spawn. They each have power 2, so they deal 2 damage to each other's toughness, bringing it down to 1. Neither of them die.
Yep.
So they stick around.
However, I see a little lifelink thing here.
So even though neither of our creatures died, lifelink will still happen, and I'll gain 2 life from him dealing 2 damage to your vampire. So I will go up to 4 life. Now, does it go over how damage regenerates on a creature? I don't think it does.
I'm looking at this, and I'm going to say no, but technically at the end of your turn, one of the pieces of the end phase is creatures heal.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. Creatures heal. Any amount of damage that were done to them are healed at the end. And yes, all creatures.
So you can't deal like chip damage over multiple
No.
turns to a creature. You have to deal it all in one turn.
Yeah. However, it can be at any point during the turn.
Yes.
So if I had something else to do 1 more damage before the end of the turn, that would work. And if you had something to do 1 more damage, that would work.
Which happens fairly frequently.
It does.
Combat tricks are very very
yeah.
in this game. But with that, I will end my turn.
So I'm going on to my 6th turn. Now, here's where we get to the book telling us your 6th turn and beyond. So in this case now, it's saying essentially the rest of the game is up to you. Now, we have how many cards left? 1, 2, 3,
Definitely enough to finish
5,
this game
6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 cards left, which means we've gone through 11 because I think we started with 20.
Yeah.
So we're now going to kind of play the game to finish up. Let's see. And it's talking about things like, what if I don't understand the card? What are playing lands? Which spells should I cast? And each one of those is now up to you to figure out as you're finishing the game.
Right.
We may refer back to this, but let's just go ahead with, let's put the on your turn back on there. And we'll just look to make sure that we cover everything we're supposed to. So beginning phase. I'm going to untap my cards, untapped, and then I'm going to draw a card. And then
What'd you get?
Blood Tithe Collector. Chances are you don't know it by name. Typically, there's so many cards in Magic. Knowing them all by name is, you need a photographic memory.
It'd be like knowing chemicals.
So in this case, I know what I drew. And I move on to my first main phase, and I get to play a land. I do have a swamp to play, so I got that. And then also as part of the first main phase, I can cast creatures or other spells. I am going to cast the Blood Tithe Collector that I just drew here. Let's just swap that out so we can take a look at that card. So it is 5 mana to cast. I will tap 5 swamps. Again, that's 1 black, 4 colorless, or 4 of any color. And that's a creature, vampire noble. It has flying.
Oh no.
Flying is cool. We did cover flying a little bit earlier because I did have one creature that had flying. And then when this creature enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, each opponent discards a card. Didn't happen. So I may have If I had a way to deal damage during combat, which I don't think I would with the vampire spawn, if I had that, then I probably would have dealt damage first and then played this card on the second main phase.
Yeah.
But
The
in the
second
meantime,
main phase
yeah,
is really like essential when it comes
yeah.
to a lot of these abilities.
So in this case, I was able to cast this 3 power, 4 toughness creature. I still have my vampire spawn out. I now actually have nothing in my hands, nothing up my sleeve. So this is another a good strategy point. If your opponent doesn't have anything in their hands, you know they can't cast anything.
Yeah.
Even if they have mana available. Like I have 1 black mana available, 1 swamp, but with nothing in my hand, I can't cast anything, which means Joey knows, and this is a good thing to know, like if you're playing against blue.
Right.
If they're not holding any cards, they can't counterspell you.
And because we're learning, I have 2 cards in my hand. Joe doesn't know what they are.
Nope.
They're 2 planes.
Ooh,
So,
that's a good strategy.
Just like with
to hold
bluff
on
or
to
with
them.
poker, if you can
Yeah.
bluff,
Yeah.
he would think I have a lot more combat tricks
Yeah.
or any tricks than I do, which I don't.
So in this case, I'm going to go with the, I don't want to attack with the vampire spawn because the vampire spawn is still a 2/3 creature, 2 power, 3 toughness. And the prideful parent is a 3/3, which means it would kill my creature and I couldn't kill it if it were to block. So I'm going to move to my end. Well, actually, let's take a look again at the card, make sure we're following everything right. So no combat. I'm not declaring any attackers. And then we move to the second main phase. I have no cards in my hand, so playing a land or casting creatures or other spells is irrelevant. So then I move to my end phase. That's the end of my turn. Over to Joey.
I will draw for my. Oh,
Ah,
I do it every time.
it says untap.
I will untap because we're all learning.
Yeah.
We're all learning here.
Now, another thing that does happen regularly as you get more advanced into Magic is another piece of the beginning phase called upkeep. There are things that happen during an upkeep part of the beginning phase. We haven't had anything yet, so the card doesn't reflect upkeep, and that's cool.
Oftentimes, it only comes into play when a card tells you.
Yeah,
consider
exactly.
it.
During your upkeep, do something.
Yeah.
And that upkeep phase or upkeep step is the part of the beginning phase.
It's untap, upkeep, and then draw.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. All right, I will draw for my turn, having done both untap and a non-functional upkeep.
So now you move to your first main phase, where you can play land or cast creatures and other spells.
I will. I think I will. I will tap 4. Yeah, I'll tap 4, and I will play. Here we go with pronunciations. Jazal Goldmane.
Cool.
Jazal is a 4/4 cat warrior with first strike, which means in combat calculations, he'll deal damage before the opponent will deal damage. So if his 4 power is enough to destroy a creature, no damage will get dealt back to him, which keeps him safe.
Yep. And it does have that distinction in the parentheses there. Damage before creatures without first strike. So if it's against another creature that has first strike, they would still deal damage at the same time.
They cancel each other out.
Yeah.
The other ability here is something that I don't think we've had yet, which is an activated ability.
Yep.
An activated ability is something that you can do the first turn that you bring it out if you have the mana. I do not. I only have 2 mana untapped. But next turn, if I were to tap 5 mana, attacking creatures that I control get plus X until the end of turn.
That's a lot.
Where X is the number of attacking creatures.
Yep.
X can be any number from 0 to 1,000,000. In my case, it depends on the amount of attacking creatures.
Yep.
So I will play him onto the battlefield. I'll keep him untapped, and I won't attack because he has summoning sickness. And I feel pretty safe from a board perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 life remaining, which against the black deck, it can go either way. You have plenty of spells that can deal 4 damage.
Yep. It's a little tricky. And especially not even knowing what's in the deck.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be that's tough.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I think I'm just gonna play it safe and pass the turn.
Okay.
You will kill anything that I attack with.
Now, I would presume, and again, this is just part of, we know this character that, creature that was just summoned has summoning sickness. However, if it didn't, I would presume you'll probably attack with a 4/4 first strike against my 2/3 and 3/4.
Yeah, there'd be no reason for me not to attack when he would be pretty safe.
Yeah. Okay. So then I will move to my turn, and we do the beginning. I will untap, and then I will draw one card into my hand. And let's see, I move on to the main phase, and I can play a land, which I'm not going to do. I'm not going to tell you if it's a land or
I
not.
know, right? Who knows?
Let's see. Ooh. Okay. I'm going to play this. This card is 6 mana. I'm going to go ahead and drop that sucker there. Crossway Troublemakers. 1 black and 5 colorless. And it is a creature vampire. Attacking vampires I control have death touch and lifelink. We kind of went over lifelink already, which means if it deals any damage, the player gains that much life.
Mhm.
Death touch. That's a new one.
Yeah.
With death touch, it says right on it here that actually, it doesn't even say. Any amount of damage they deal to a creature is enough to destroy it. So as long as it deals damage to a creature, that creature will be destroyed at the end of the turn. So death touch essentially means if the creature damages another creature, that creature goes to the graveyard at the end of the turn.
There's an interesting interaction between first strike and death touch.
Yeah.
So if a death touch creature were to be blocked or block a first strike creature, if that first strike will deal enough damage to destroy it, he'll do so before any death touch damage gets
Exactly.
to go.
Which is really cool for the first strike creature.
Yeah.
However, there's something a little extra that I've still got here. I've got a flying creature.
Yep, you sure do.
And Joey doesn't have any creature that's flying and does not have any creature with the ability of reach, which allows it to block a creature with flying.
Mhm.
So now this I'm going to attack with the Vampire Noble. I will declare, moving on to my combat phase, I will declare the attacker Vampire Noble. It has flying. And because Crossway Troublemakers is out on the field now, this attacking vampire now has death touch and lifelink. Also, the other thing that was right at the bottom of the Crossway Troublemakers card is whenever a vampire I control dies, I may pay 2 life, and if I do, I can draw a card.
Great.
Not sure if I'll do that with the small amount of life we have for the starter here.
Yeah.
However, I am declaring the attacker of the Bloodline Connector, Blood Tithe Connector, that thing. And it's a 3/4 flying.
Great.
Move on to declaring blockers.
I have no blockers that can legally block it.
So then go on to combat damage, dealing combat damage. So it will be 3 damage to Joey. And because it has a life link, I gain 3 life.
That's not looking good.
No, right now it's not.
You're up to 9 and I'm down to 1.
Yeah, I got to say, I agree with you. It's not looking good. I'm guessing, however, your next card is going to be something helpful. So going on to my second main phase, I have nothing else to play. No cards in my hand, so I can't play any lands or cast any spells. Then I move on to my end phase, and pass the turn over.
Gotcha.
Oh, and also, just as Joey had mentioned, creatures heal at the end of the main phase. So if any creature had gotten damaged, bam, they're back to normal.
I will untap my land, draw my card for the turn.
Uh-oh. See, he's got that look.
Game changer.
And especially because this is a beginner box, I'm sure the strategy is to make each side feel like they have a chance all the time.
Yeah,
and I would say so far, very much so.
We've
It
been
feels
playing
like that.
something every
So
turn.
the decks are definitely stacked. Do not shuffle.
Yeah.
And this is cool. Go for it.
I think that in the future, keeping them in this order will be very helpful. So that
And
we
that's
can replay it.
that's where the beginning of the book is nice. It actually has right on it what the order is for the deck. So you can rebuild it as needed.
That's perfect.
I was gonna say, let's just do save for him.
So I will play my planes for turn, bringing me up to 7. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So gone through the untap and the drawing a card, and now the first main phase, playing a land.
And for my spellcasting part of the main phase, I will tap 2, and I'll play Pacifism on Crossroads Trouble.
Let's take a look at that card.
Yeah.
Let's see what pacifism does. It's not a good thing. We used to call this the warm fuzzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Pacifism is an enchantment aura that will attach to any creature. I can target my creature or Joe's. Today I'll be targeting Joe's.
Of course. Nice.
Enchanted creature can't attack or block. Pretty simple.
Hey.
I will be attaching it to Crossway Troublemakers.
Nice.
And I'll put it sideways so that we don't accidentally put it into the vampire stack.
Yeah, and it's a good point, especially because we want these cards to be separable back into the decks they started with.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that we keep them separate. It's kind of straightforward because this deck shouldn't have any white spells, and the white deck shouldn't have any black spells. That makes sense. But also good idea to sort them. especially when you're playing with others and your own deck and their own deck, you want to make sure everybody gets their cards back. Now, most players will play with sleeves, so there's usually some way to differentiate.
That makes it really
It's
easy.
yeah.
So you can color code the front and back.
Exactly. Okay, so now crossway troublemakers may not block or attack. Yay.
And that's beneficial for me because a 5/5 will kill my biggest creature.
And this is a part of what I was thinking as we started Joey's turn. I was thinking, what's he going to do against my 5/5? First strike doesn't matter anymore,
Right?
Because it does not enough damage to kill it. I should have known with the stacked deck, there's something that could play into it. So now I guess we move on to combat.
The last thing I'll do during my main phase is I'll go ahead and use the activated ability. Jazzle Goldmane, I can tap 5 mana, which I have.
Yep.
2, 4, 5. So each attacking creature I control will get +X until the end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures.
Yay.
I will.
But yeah, I mean,
I know, right?
Yeah.
I will go ahead and declare all of my attackers. I will swing with everything. 4 creatures.
Now, I will do the thing that's very helpful for people, especially when starting out, and even for veteran players. I will call out that you have a creature that has vigilance that does not need to tap to attack.
Thank you.
Very useful, by the way, when it comes right down to it. You should be having fun playing this game.
Yeah.
Being a jerk about things, it's just not worth it.
Especially if you win, you don't want it to be, I won because I was a jerk.
Yeah.
And because somebody made the wrong move thinking they were making the right one.
So one of the great things about Vigilance, since it doesn't have to tap to attack, that means it's still untapped, so it can block on the other player's turn. Very important. So again, if I wanted to be that jerk, I could just say, leave it tapped.
Yeah, leave it tapped.
Yeah. And then, no take backsies or whatever.
Right, let your hand love the card.
Exactly. But we don't do that. We don't want to do that here. Nice friendly atmosphere here at Card Universe. Come play casual Magic or Friday Night Magic. Nice, fun, casual atmosphere.
Yeah. So because I'm attacking with all 4 of my creatures, each of them are getting +4/+4.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So altogether, this is going to be 5 damage coming from the cat.
I honestly don't think I live through this.
I don't think so. But
because I have a singular blocker.
For the sake of argument, we'll just give out
let's play
everything.
it out. So declared attackers, we have, so now I need to declare a blocker.
Yes.
Let me, I say a blocker because I have a singular creature here that can block with my Vampire Spawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I will. Now, one of the biggest things to think about when you're blocking is block the biggest thing you can when you're trying to prevent the most amount of damage. But sometimes you're going to target what you block just so you can kill something. Yeah. And in my case, I'm less worried about killing something and more about staying alive. I do have 9 life at this point. Let's see how it works out.
Yeah.
So I have a 2/3 I can block with. What is the largest thing you have with the bonuses?
That would be, I believe,
I think
that's all Goldmane.
And that's an 8/8?
An 8/8.
Yeah, so it's a 4/4 base plus the 4 from the activated ability.
That only lasts until the end of turn.
Okay. So I'm going to let the Vampire Spawn bite the bullet on that one, which will take care of the 8 damage. Mm-hmm. Now let's see what's left.
That'll be a 6, 7.
Yeah.
A 7/7.
That's 13.
And a 6/6.
So 13 and 6 is 19. I have 9. So the vampires go down in flames, man.
Then the cats get to beg for another meal for more day. Well, that was a good game.
Very good.
That was very fun.
Very good game.
With a beginner kit? That
was really cool. Let's take a moment at the end of this, and I want to talk about the product itself. Yeah. So first, I know we've mentioned it a bit as we played. To play the game and learn how to play, we actually only needed these 2 decks, which granted, I felt they could have been separated a little better.
Sure.
I will say, as far as this beginner box goes, if Wizards had just put the Vampires deck and Cats deck in their own cellophane, I think that would have been easier to start.
Yeah.
Or if there was something in here that actually said, separate the vampires and cats by opening both of them and finding them. Right. Even something that simple. And then everything else put to the side. Those are your jumpstart packs for later. Aside from that, though, I think the deck's well put together. They walk you through playing. And then these quick start guides, man, the effort put into the artwork,
Yeah.
the character narration, the thought bubbles they've got here. I think it's really cool. What do you think of that?
I think a lot of the graphics, especially this damage being dealt here, it looks and reminds me a lot of Magic the Gathering Arena, the app.
Yeah, okay.
So if
Yeah.
somebody's only played digitally before and they want to pick up the cardboard paper game,
Yeah.
this is a really easy transition because it plays the exact same way.
Yeah.
It shows you with very familiar terms how to play.
Mhm.
All that's different is the physical aspect of tapping and shuffling, which you don't even do here.
No.
So being able to have a coordinated, organized deck to play right out of the box,
Yeah.
well, is a really good way to teach somebody how it feels to run through a game of Magic.
Yeah. And I like one of the things I appreciate now that we've played through with the 20 card deck, I was expecting to have the playmat a lot more cramped because, to be fair, when you play a larger game, it gets cramped really fast.
Yeah.
But because of the smaller one, these playmats, these boards worked really well. I like the size, the plenty of room where you put your cards that you're not forced into a rectangle the size of the card. A lot of playmats
Right.
have them exactly the right size.
Yeah.
It feels roomy. I do like the play board.
And the good thing is that if you are to expand and go, well, now I want to play a regular 60 card game of Magic, you could use the same board.
Yeah,
And
because
as
it's all
you
the
learn-
same fields.
And as you learn where the fields go and how to kind of manage your side of the field, you could even just not use this anymore because
Yeah.
now you've learned how it looks.
Plus, once you've gotten to that point, maybe you want to buy a playmat like there are over here on the shelves
Plenty
here at Card Universe.
of mats.
Ultra Pro makes them, and other manufacturers make playmats. There's actually a really nice one that Joey had shown me that is a 2-player playmat. It's one big mat, and it has both sides on it.
Yes,
that one looks
perfect
really
for
nice.
teaching people how to play.
And then the tokens, very easy to use. The counters, the +1/+1. And that was the only thing we needed. So that was really nice. Let's see, what else? We'll probably talk about the Jumpstart ones. It's really nice to get some other cards so that once you've gone through the beginner, now you're ready to play the game.
Yeah.
As intended by taking some packs, shuffling them together and playing the game.
And the cool thing about these Jumpstart decks is that if you have sleeves, you can sleeve them up in multicolored sleeves. So if you were to put the undead in black sleeve, the wizards in blue sleeves, you can shuffle them up and play them together. And then when you're done, break them back up by color. So you can do that again easily without having to kind of agonize over what card is going into what pack.
Yeah, and it's a very cool idea. I guess the only other thing we don't need to cover yet, but the rules reference, which I'm sure we will use as we get farther into playing the Jumpstart. But the cards like the on your turn cards, having the cat token, I think they included everything needed to make this not only easy to play, but very representative of an actual game of Magic.
Yeah, it didn't feel like we were on training wheels other than not being completely in freedom of what we were doing. But still, it played and smelled exactly like a Magic Witch,
I just got to see what my next card was.
Sure. Oh, classic.
Vengeful Blood Witch. Whenever a creature or another creature or another creature, this creature or another creature you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Well,
With my 1 life, that would have been it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You were down to 1.
Yeah, it was really a close game.
Nice. I always like looking at that next card.
Mine was Ingenious Leonin. He's a 5 for 4/4. And it lets me put +1/+1 counters on attacking creatures.
Ooh,
And if they're cats, they get first strike. So very cool set of cards in here.
Yeah.
Even if you were to break this apart and use it as a foundation for another deck, you would you'd be very well served by the cards that you have.
We'll definitely put this one back in the order it was in. This box will stay here at Card Universe. Anybody want to come to Card Universe and see this? Joey will be happy to show you this game. Great play. Also, if you want to buy it for yourself, you get all these extra Jumpstart cards. That's on the shelf here. And I think that's going to wrap us up for playing the Magic the Gathering Foundation's beginner box.
Perfect.
Thanks for joining me, Joey.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to go through how Magic is being taught nowadays.
Oh, yeah. And this is really nice. I think it's probably the only time I've actually seen it taught by the makers.
Yeah.
I've only ever had it taught by another player.
Yeah, or the guidebooks are very vague and not very helpful. This is probably by far the most painless way I've seen of teaching Magic.
So thanks, Wizards.
Yeah, thank you
We
very
like this
much.
one.
This is a thumbs up.
Yeah. And for us, we'll wrap this up. We'll say bye.
All right, I'll see you later, guys.
The preceding podcast was brought to you by One Joe Young. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com.